All right, look at that. You're getting some double salutes right off the bat. Well, technically, those were just left and right salutes. This is the double salute, which is what I offer to you when I welcome you to the weekly spinner rack. Hello, everybody. There's another couple and one more for good luck. I'm your host, Chris, and this is just a weekly show about comic books. We're going to talk about the latest comic book news. Trust me, it is not all doom and gloom. There's actually some really amazing news, some that was just breaking as recently as today. And then we have some incredible comics to discuss. I've been anticipating this one for a while, the final issue of the Daniel Warren Johnson run with art by Jorge Corona inside. Great cover there. But there was also some really interesting stuff that I came across. I got this cool indie comic I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about Absolute Batman tonight. Also, I don't know if you guys know about this, but aside from Weekly Shonen Jump, there's also Young Magazine, which is aimed at ironically an older audience. It's called Seinen Manga, which is aimed at young adults. And now there's a USA version of this. So this is over 1,000 pages that they're giving away for free. So of course I picked one up. It's got some cool things inside that people would recognize even if you're not super into manga. It's got like a poster by Masamune Shiro of Ghost in the Shell. It's got a new story in the back, Subaru and Subaru, by the creator of Initial D and MF Ghost. So that'll be interesting to talk about aside from just the news of the week. Let me start with some welcomes to all the folks here before we get into the news. Hello. It's wonderful to have some of these people. Yes, I know I initially misspelled the title, but I've corrected it. Let's see. This is awesome. Look at how many friendly faces there are. Yeah, we'll be talking about Red Hood. It's some pretty big news, so there's really no way to ignore it. But there's also some cool stuff to talk about. There's a lot to talk about tonight. Oh wow, you already got your Stardust, huh? I got a notice that I'd be getting mine shipped, but I haven't received mine yet. Yes, would always appreciate thumbs up as we filter in. Double the salutes. I did my best. Love it when you guys can smash the like button. Don't smash it so hard that you break your keyboard. I'm of the rare opinion, go ahead and keep your keyboard in good working order. That's just me though. Hello. This is wonderful. This is going to go well. I promise. It's going to be good. Hey, Dave. Hope you had an amazing time at the Eddie P Comic-Con. It looked from the photos I was seeing on social media like everyone had a great time there. This was also the weekend of SPX, my favorite indie Comic-Con. That's out in Bethesda, Maryland, so I didn't get to attend this year. But if anybody did, please let me know in the comments below. Monday night, trying to get you guys started well this work week. Hey, it's my sister. Always nice to have you here. Look, this is wonderful. Thank you, everybody. That's awesome. Oh, it's over 1,000 pages. I'll talk about it, but you can get it free if you're near a city anyway. All right, let's get into, let's see. Let me think real quick. Just talking about my stuff. I uploaded a video on comic tropes. I interviewed Robert Kirkman. I think we had a really fun, friendly, and focused conversation. I didn't do like a whole deep dive, hour plus discussion. Although we did talk about how we should probably do another one of those at some point. Robert has been working in the comics industry for a long time, and he's got a unique perspective. So at some point we will do that, but we mostly focused on new stuff that Skybound's doing, which is actually, I thought, legit interesting. Transformers, Invincible, Skinbreaker. So please check that out. Tomorrow, Jim Mafood and I on this channel will have a new episode of Trash Movie Bonanza, and I'll just get you guys excited, tell you what it is about. The 1977 Spider-Man TV movie. I think it's one of the funnier episodes we've done. I think you'll like it. We talk about it a lot. I guess we just have a lot to say because we grew up with this kind of stuff. So let's see. We've got those, and I'm sorry, I'm still working on the next fully edited episode about, an artist for comic tropes. I've had to work a lot this week. I've had to work a lot, and so that's just sort of taken a while to get fully edited. Hey, good. Jim's here. I hope you had a great time at the Eddie P Comic Con as well. Oh, thank you for watching it. So anyway, with all that said, let's get into the news of the week. I think it's time.
We're sitting on top of the story of the century here.
Put an ad on the front page. Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Hi guys, this is April O'Neil from Channel 6 News, and I am here in beautiful New York City.
The news. All right. It's over. That is definitely, by the way, I think my clickbaitiest title and thumbnail. But what can I say? I do this weekly. I'm just leaning into it. It's the only way you get views is if you sort of like capture people's attention. And then I think that the people that come here regularly, I think you guys are just super informed about comics and have a genuine love for the medium. I think the people that love it stay. But oh, that's so nice to hear that the Eddie P Comic Con was that nice. Glad you and Dave and Tom and Jim Rugg and all those guys had a great time. Wish I could go maybe someday. All right, let's get into the news. So I'll start with this wild story I came across. CGC's Slabs may have an issue. It's not for sure, so I'll give you the background on it. So first of all, you may remember that last year in 2024, there was an issue with CGC Slabs. It was called the reholdering scam, where you could basically, some people found a way to open the slabs, swap out a comic for like sort of a worse quality one, and then have CGC do something called reholdering, where they don't look at it and examine it again. They just fix the slab. So people were like taking out the valuable copy of the comic, putting in a less attractive one, but still getting it slabbed as like, the high grade. So CGC said, yep, you know what? You can basically loosen it and pry it apart. So we're fixing it. But that may have come with its own new issues. So the YouTube channel Automatic Comics, you can go there to like actually see the video and hear more details about it. Because I'll be honest, I'm not a super expert on like CGC and the collecting aspect of comics. It's something I try to learn as much as I can about. It's just not the area that interests me specifically. So I don't consider myself an expert on grading for comics and stuff like that. But Automatic Comics has it. I've got a short piece of his video I'm going to show you, and it shows how much the slabs are warped. And this was a video sent to them by somebody that got some things. So you see there's a stack of newly slabbed comics from CGC, and there's just simply stacking them one on top of another. Nothing fancy, right? Dav says they exposed them for Reholdergate. Okay, now watch this. In a second, they're going to show how warped they are. Look at that. That's how bowed the slabs are. They're just spinning left and right. They're supposed to just stack. It's supposed to be nice and flat and even. Instead, boom, they just spin. Yikes. What's going on here? Well, there is also a Reddit post asking about this. It's not just one channel, but we don't know the extent of whether this is a problem with a lot of people or a small amount. But what's speculated is that the new design is so tight that there's no air able to escape from it. So on these lately super hot summer days, or even just shipping in like a FedEx truck or something like that, without the air to escape, it just sort of warps and bends. Not great. Not great. Wow, thanks, Sigma Comics. Let's see. Thank you for giving us one of the best comic shows every week. That's so nice of you. The fact that you're an animal lover is a bonus. I hope almost everybody is an animal lover on some level. Everybody, please support this channel. You're so kind. Man, that's really nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I sincerely appreciate it. Yeah, I think I own 2 slabbed comics. One I bought because it's early Ninja Turtles, and I wanted to support my local comic shop during the pandemic when there were no new comics coming in. So I was like, I'll buy a valuable back issue, and it's a comic I've already read, so I'll have a nice copy. I get it, it still made sense. And another I won as a prize, and I honestly don't even remember what that was off the top of my head. So, but I only own 2. So we'll just say that these comics are trying to look like the average fan. They're just getting a little bit of a belly, a little bit, boop, a little bit. The moral could be, I don't know. The air inside expands in the heat. And so there's no way for it to get out, so the plastic just warps a little. At least that's the speculation, but we don't know if this is true across all the redesigned or a small amount or only in extreme situations. It's pretty new information. We'll see how much of an issue it is. But I have to imagine there would be some sort of a way to sort of make a very small adjustment and have a small hole that air could get in and out of. I don't know, on some level. So yeah, you'd think that they'd have figured all this out, but I guess not. Oh, this was kind of cool. Matt Fraction and Becky Cloonan, those are 2 creators I like. They're going to be working on a Batman thing together. I'll talk about it. It'll focus on this guy. Anybody? Well, it says who it is, but it's a somewhat obscure Batman villain. Somewhat obscure. So last week, apparently this was discussed at a panel at Rose City Comic-Con. Matt Fraction was on it. Becky Cloonan, who's the Batman editor? I want to say Rob Levin, but I might be misremembering the name. But anyway, a bunch of people on a panel. And Matt Fraction announced something new that DC has not formally announced. It's a one-shot set within the continuity of his current run. He's the monthly writer now. And the story is going to include Batman's history with Dr. Death. That was the first supervillain, as compared to just sort of a gangster or something. Dr. Death was the first supervillain that Batman went up against in issue 29 of Detective Comics, his 3rd issue. Not used a whole lot, but he's part of continuity. Here's his quote. I'm writing a story that Becky's going to draw. I'm going to do an annual or special. I don't know what it's going to be yet. I don't know if I'm supposed to say it. Probably not. But I'm saying it anyway. Part of it is because I love Becky and I want to write for Becky. And it's a story that's going to be Batman throughout his history. So she's going to get to do not just Becky's Batman, but Becky's Batman as he started and where he went and all these different things. Could be fun. Batman via Portland. The sensibilities of Portland. Who's a Pacific Northwest superhero? The only one I can really think of is the time that Green Arrow and Black Canary spent in Seattle proper. But are there any superheroes that are supposed to be set, somewhere between Portland and Seattle or even Vancouver, Canada? I can't think of any that stay there as their normal base of operations. I don't know. There should be enough superhero crime up here for them to fight. Yeah, he's been used off and on throughout the years. Nice to see you, Owen. I love them both too. Becky, honestly, I feel like she's getting better and better in the last few years. She really impresses me. I loved her Christmas story in that horror anthology from Dark Horse last year. That was great. Dr. Fraser Crane. No, sorry. Fraser is back in Boston if you're keeping up with his with his continuity and his lore. All right, fair enough. Chrissy got me. Yes, Phoenix Jones, a real life superhero. Not super active, but you're right. That is kind of right. Omega, right. Everybody remembers Omega. Bart, do you remember the Nintendo Virtual Boy? Now it's back in Pog form. Peacemaker is Washington in the comics? That does sound right, but I don't quite remember the specific. Was that like in the Kupperberg era of the DC Comics run? Anyway. All right, moving forward. Let's talk about the big news that I've got in the headline. And oh my God, like for somebody that looks up every day, a couple times a day, honestly, comics news, this was just like thrown at me from like every news source covered this because you could spin it in certain ways. But it's honestly like a pretty messed up situation on several levels. Okay. Red Hood has been canceled. I'll get into it if somehow you were able to avoid this news. Yeah, that was me doing Millhouse. I guess. Yeah. All right. So first of all, Wednesday, DC releases Red Hood #1. The same day, they emailed comic book retailers to say, pull it off your shelves, send it back to us. We'll reimburse you for any issues you didn't sell. So it was a recall. I did an episode not that many months ago about recalled comics. Well, now we've got a new one. And why did it? I mean, this is probably going to sound weird. I think possibly DC did the right thing. The writer, Gretchen Felker Martin, pretty outspoken on social media. DC knew that going in. You know, she just is. She's pretty far to the left. And I think we all know what happened to Charlie Kirk. Now, I personally don't care about Charlie Kirk as a person, but I absolutely hate what happened. It's super scary. The gun violence that we have in our country. I mean, I don't think any of us feel perfectly safe going out in public these days. Almost every day, and that's not an exaggeration, almost every day, there's some form of a mass shooting in a school, a church, a mall. Anyway, this right-wing political commentator was killed. I'm not going to get super into that because it's, YouTube doesn't like that. And it's plus it's not super comics, okay? But that happened. And then what happened? Well, writer Gretchen Felker Martin posted to Blue Sky, kind of celebrating. I'm shortening it because I don't even want to post the thing, or YouTube just isn't going to like that. I got to be careful with how I phrase things. But what she said, and Blue Sky, I would also say, is it's pretty liberal as far as the social media platform goes. As far as that goes, it's not a perfect place, but I like Blue Sky. But she got her account suspended for what she said. Okay, and she got 2 calls from DC that night. One of them was from publisher Marie Javins, and they said, "We know where you stand, but this is going too far. We can't support that. You can't celebrate the death of somebody. You just can't." And so that is what it is. I'm trying to think of like what else I want to say about this. I'm trying to be careful. Let's see. This is, folks, come on. If you say something transphobic, I'm gonna kick you. So let's be fair. I don't think anybody here wants anybody to be killed. I'm going to just say that. I don't think anybody here wants anybody to be killed. It's sad for Kirk's family. It is. It's a messed up situation. It's a messed up situation. But let me just say this. I get that DC had to do this recall, okay? However, I think, let me just take 2 seconds here. Okay. I think it's a shame that the rest of the team gets affected by this. DC had a plan to do a 12-issue series. It was actually supposed to spin out of Hush 2, which we know has been super delayed, okay? But I think that, like, if DC sees these comments, doesn't want to be associated, I think that that's their right. I do. I think, fine, take her off the title. I think you probably should have, like, done a pause and continued the book with a new writer, because it's too bad that an artist, a colorist, and, you know, I don't know if there was an inker on it, but the letterer, you know, a whole team, we're counting on a year's worth of work there. So I really think that they should have probably just announced a new team. That's my thinking. That's my thing. I don't know. There's no easy answers for something ugly like this. I'll also say it's hard for me to care a whole lot about this specific book because I personally have never been a big fan of Red Hood. I just think it's weird how Jason Todd got brought back and turned into what he got turned into. You know, whatever. So that's what happened. I will say Comics Journal, right on top of things. They did a deep dive interview with Felker Martin. She said she doesn't regret her comments. So she stands by what she said. Fine with me. That's sort of where I'm trying to land here is what you're saying, EJ. I'm not a fan either. I don't see how anybody could be, to be honest. I mean, he said some really racist stuff over the years, said some really misogynist stuff. But I would never want somebody killed. I don't want that killed at all. That's terrible. So anyway, I just think maybe that the DC was probably right to pull the book, but I wish that they'd just gone ahead and, like, hired a different writer. I think that would have been the fair thing to do to the rest of the team and to continue with their plans. Keep in mind, we are close to Batman Day, the anniversary of Batman coming out, and DC was also giving retailers, kind of like on a free comic book day or trick or read, a comic that they could give out, the Batman sampler, which would have had the new Batman #1 and the new Red Hood #1. They've pulled that too. So, yeah, I'm not mourning him per se, to be honest. That's almost a separate issue to me, but I do mourn where the violence is. I don't want anybody to get killed. That I find that very upsetting. I really do. So, we'll see where things go. You know, Gretchen writes books and stuff. She's going to be fine in the long run, just so you know. I think DC knew what they were getting into when they hired her. She was always upfront about who she was and where her politics lay, and that's fine. But they probably should have been better prepared and thought through, like, what was going to happen. So, anyway, yeah, I just have this note, but I already said it. This was supposedly, this part's a little funny. This is about the book itself, okay? that this is supposed to be a spinoff from Hush 2, but Hush 2 is now so delayed that the 6th and final issue is currently scheduled for January. So the Red Hood would have already been up to like issue 5 or 6 by the time its previous series ended. Who knows exactly what Batman continuity is right now? It's a little messy. I'll just say that last week, picking up Batman #1, that was a great jumping on point for me. I liked it a lot. Yes, too Hush, too slow. It should have just been its own thing instead of being like part of the regular continuity. No, I don't think that. Like, I think she earned the job, and I think DC knew what they were getting into. I think her comments wouldn't be bad as an individual, really. You're allowed to think whatever you think. I think when you're working for a big company, I think you have to be realistic that on some level, you're starting to represent them, and they're not going to be okay with you going too far to either side. That said, if there's money in it, DC would have published it anyway. DC is still reprinting books by problematic people on both sides. They've got, Ethan Van Sciver, Green Lantern books getting reprinted. They've got Neil Gaiman, Sandman books getting reprinted. If it's making enough money, they're just going to go like, no, it's already done. Whoops, we're just still going to publish it. So I'm just saying that I think that if you work for a big company, instead of doing your own thing, like working even through like Image or something, your comments that you put out on social media are going to reflect on that company. And you have to, it's like I say for even like Charlie Kirk or anybody, free speech, but understand that what you say has consequences. Just so I think that that's pretty fair. I'm not so sure if they are or not, to be honest. I don't know. Thanks, John. Let's see. Chris, I think you put it well. That's kind of you. I don't know. I'm speaking in the moment. I should have planned, but I didn't. Some here don't align with his views, which we can call problematic at best. But killing the man is not the answer. No, it isn't. And I worry about like the fallout, but that's getting purely into politics. I want to focus on the comics. It's a mess. But that's everything I've got on DC this week. Yes. Although, hold on. There's something that by Gerard Jones that still gets printed by DC, and I'm trying to remember what it is. The big prominent stuff he did, like Amalgam, or God forbid, like Prime at the Ultraverse, that stuff is probably never getting reprinted ever. But there's something else that he's done like that was like within an ongoing book, and I think that they do still publish something, but it's not coming to me. It's not coming to me. Probably something from Green Lantern. I think that they do keep in print. Well, they can't stop it, on some level, DC can't stop, because if you don't print something, or by printing, I just mean publishing your trademark on something, after a few years, that can be shown as abandoning your intellectual property, and then someone else can use it. They don't want to do that. So they're put in a bad situation. Yeah, they did take his stories, I know, out of the Marvel DC Omnibus, and I wasn't surprised at that at all. It might be Emerald Dawn. It might be Emerald Dawn that I think they still keep in print. Anyway. I made an episode about recalled comics, but if you go down that rabbit hole, it is ugly. All right. Going to make a drastic shift here with a completely different news story. I think this one's kind of amazing, folks. Demon Slayer. I knew Demon Slayer was popular, but my God, I've got a personal story I'll weave into this in a second. Let me just acknowledge a super chat because I really do appreciate the support. A friend of mine is currently reading The Complete Adventures of Stick Boy. I'm curious if you've read it. It looks pretty bonkers. I haven't. I know I've heard of it at least once, but I haven't read it. Yeah, I'll have to at some point. I don't know much about it. All right, so Demon Slayer. My God, is this popular? So, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Infinity Castle, based on the manga, set box office records over this weekend, earning over $70 million for an opening weekend animated movie in general. Or any movie just about. $70 million for the weekend is fantastic. And I'm just saying US and Canada, so North America. I'm not talking about worldwide. Worldwide, it's already been out in Japan for a while, but there's all these other markets. It's made crazy money, folks. It crushed new releases. Movies that I am personally interested in. The Long Walk, that's one of my favorite Stephen King books. I'm going to see that tomorrow with a friend. Downton Abbey, guess what? I'm a huge nerd for Downton Abbey. I love it. I already saw their movie, loved it. But it crushed those movies, okay? It just crushed them. And I was in the theater to see Downton Abbey a couple nights ago, and everyone in the theater seemed to be wearing either a Demon Slayer t-shirt or Tanjiro cosplay. I was like, oh, I knew that this movie would do well because the last one did well. But seeing how many people were at that theater, I go, this isn't scientific, but this is bigger than I realized. This is bigger. Oh my God. All right. So here's what it did for records. It's now the biggest opening for an anime film. We're talking, by the way, US box office stuff. It's beaten Pokemon, the first movie, held that title for a long time. And the biggest opening for a foreign language film. This one surprised me a little. Jet Li's Hero has held that honor since something like 2008 or 9. So yeah, it beat both of those. Biggest foreign language opening, biggest anime film opening. This, by the way, if you're not reading it, just to understand why it's such a big deal, this helps put it in context. It's the first of a trilogy where they're adapting the final battle against the big bad of the series, a guy named Muzan, and his top minions, his top demons and stuff. Hero wasn't my favorite, but I think it benefited from coming out at the right time. I do think it looked pretty. Well, it came out like right after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that was a legit great movie. And I think it like made people more excited for the next thing that looked like it. Yeah, I think that it may have been dubbed or something. So I don't know. I looked this up on, what do you call it? Box Office Mojo, and they listed Hero as the biggest foreign language opening weekend in North America. So, Jesus, it was incredible. All right, let's see. Now I've got the gossipy stuff, the weird stuff. All right, a store owner arrested for theft. What is this crazy story? James Bird is the owner of a comic shop called Paper Street Trading Company in Ohio, and him and his former employee Travis Daniels were both arrested and charged with 3 things: theft, receiving stolen property, and telecommunications fraud. Court records, I read it. It was boring, but I did it to summarize this. They revealed that what Bird and Daniels were doing was they accepted stolen Lego sets and over-the-counter medicine from places like Kroger and Walmart. And they would alter the barcodes on the packaging to prevent it being traced back to them, or the original stores it was stolen from. The stolen merchandise was valued at more than $150,000, and they've been doing it for 4 years, since 2021. That's just crazy. So they just had some sort of an ongoing thing where customers would steal stuff. They'd buy it at wholesale prices and sell it to the next person after altering the codes. Yeah, local comic shop Breaking Bad. This should be this is the cartoon version of Breaking Bad. It's just so nerdy. Yeah, like when they were like Lego, I was like, sure, okay, comic book store, also selling Lego sets cheap. Okay, got it. Medicine? I was like, what the medicine? Lego is super stolen. If you go into most stores these days, it's always behind locked cases now. It's kind of sad, but it's valuable stuff. Anyway. Oh yeah, it worked like a pawn shop, but like one that definitely is not doing things above board. I just got a kick out of how crazy it is that there's a comic shop out there that's like, we also sell aspirin. I feel like that should have been a red flag. Like, why is my comic shop trying to sell me, Nuprin? Like, that does not sound right. For 4 years. Like, if they're selling Lego, I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe they're not making much of a profit on it or something, and they've got a line on it. But why do they have Benadryl here? It just doesn't make sense to me. That would have made me so suspicious if I was going into my comic shop and they just had Robitussin alongside the latest issue of Absolute Batman. Why does my comic shop sell the Walgreens brand Robitussin? What's this Waltussin stuff? Oh well, I guess it's too good a price to pass up. For 4 years they're doing this. Comics are just a headache. I get it. I don't think they make unprinted anymore, dude. What? I don't know what that means. Sorry. Comic shops should sell those reader glasses for us older fans. Sponsored by Blue Pill. Absolute Advil. Oh, that stuff's intense, man. It's 3 times the strength of naproxen. Daredevil. 1 copy of Daredevil, and yes, I'll also take some Tums and that Lego set. Oh my god. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. They don't make new print anymore. Do they not make new print anymore? Tiny, yellow, different. That makes me old. All right. One-stop shopping. Oh, I'm so sick, but I've got to read my latest Transformers. I know. Paper Street Trading Company in Ohio. They've got everything I need. All right. Thank you. It was a crazy story. I had to share it. More Diamond drama. Here's an actual photo of them, of their warehouse. Probably in better times. That is very well stocked. So, what's happening there? The Diamond debtors, as in the entity that still owes the money from the... all of a sudden I'm blanking. What's it called? Bankruptcy. Jesus. I need some Robitussin. Or maybe I need less. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for getting that. I appreciate it. Yeah, a little Diamond stuff. Diamond has started what's called adversary proceedings, where they send out lawsuits to each of the 135 publishers who have inventory at their warehouse, which was on consignment, means that Diamond didn't own it. They were supposed to sell it and pass on the profit margin that they all agreed to the publisher. They've sent out lawsuits to the first 31 of 135 publishers. This has already been decided in court that they would have to sue each publisher individually to try to say that they have the rights to sell this consigned inventory, that they own it because it's in their warehouse. Doesn't make much sense. It includes some pretty big publishers, though. Boom, Dark Horse, Dynamite, Distillery, Fantagraphics, Oni. Plenty more that are smaller and probably have a harder time defending themselves. Just a mess. Also, Bleeding Cool reports that Diamond may be looking to sell the license or the rights, the intellectual rights to Free Comic Book Day, which you'd think is something that nobody owns, but no, Diamond owns the rights to that name and that idea and everything. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know how much value that should really have, because I really think you're going to have to come up with a new distribution system if you continue this anyway, because you're not working with Diamond really. So just call it comic giveaway or, or spring comics festival. I don't know. You could call it anything and still do the idea. So I don't get it. Johnson & Johnson presents the Paper Trading Company Free Comic Book Day. Yes, exactly. Oh, no, that's a terrible idea. How dare you? They're like, I can't. First idea, best idea. Get your comics for free day. Anyway, I just don't think. I really hope that if they sell it, somebody does not pay that much for it, because I just don't think it has that much value. I think the idea is great. Fun Run. The Michael Scott Fun Run Cure For what? That. Oh, you know what? Just since I'm looking at paper and we just made a joke about The Office, I tried that new, somewhat of a spin-off sitcom, The Paper, on Peacock, and there was one character that's sort of like just a cartoonish villain, always trying to get people fired. But aside from her, I really was finding it funny, and things get better and better as the season went on. I watched all 10 episodes within like 3 or 4 days. I thought that The Paper was pretty darn funny for anybody that has Peacock. Oh, cool. I'm glad I'm not alone. I thought it was pretty funny. All right. Oh, this is what it was called. Michael Scott's Dunder Mifflin Scranton Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure. Oh, that was one of the best. That was one of the best. Peacock, you can get like memberships by, I don't know, buying stuff with some store or other. I don't know. Oscar got pretty funny, especially as the show went on. All right, that's not comics, so I'll keep moving. This is fun. Who wants to have a cowabunga good time eating pizza? A TMNT Pizzeria, which I misspelled, I just realized, because it becomes an E here. Whoops, sorry. They spelled it right. I spelled it wrong. I'm an idiot. A Ninja Turtles Pizzeria is going to open in Los Angeles, specifically in Santa Monica. It's only 3 blocks, short blocks, from the beach. It's less than a 3/4 mile walk from the Santa Monica Pier, which is a kind of fun place to go, I think. It comes by a guy named Andy Nguyen, and he's an entrepreneur who's previously opened licensed themed restaurants. He did One Piece Cafe. He did a Sonic the Hedgehog cafe. He gets the official license. He brands it. It's fun. They've got a lot of this stuff in Japan. Not quite as much here in America, but this guy, Andy Nguyen, seems to have cracked the code for how to do it. The restaurant promises to be an immersive experience offering New York-style thin slice pizza. No specific date yet, but they've been posting stuff on social media a lot. And this week, the Santa Monica Mirror, a local newspaper, said that it was opening soon. So, yeah. Next time you're in Los Angeles and you're like, what can I find to eat in this city? I mean, are there any good restaurants in Los Angeles? Well, you could always get Leonardo Pizza, or Michelangelo Sausage Pepperoni. I don't know. Yes, they douse it in a little bit of authentic sewage. Sonic-based Sonic, yes. Yes, they always have one rat in the kitchen for that authenticity. I think it should be better than that since he's had 2 successful, or maybe even more, but I know 2 sort of comic book themed restaurants that did well. Could be fun if you're in the LA area, though. Star Trek teamed up with WEBTOON. This is just a quick little thing. This past week had Star Trek Day, where Paramount was just celebrating the anniversary of Star Trek, specifically the day it first aired here in America. And if I'm going to be a real nerd, and this is the kind of show where I think I can be, I'll let you know, Star Trek did air 2 days earlier up in Canada than it did here in America. But we tend to celebrate the American airing as Star Trek Day, the anniversary. So anyway, they had it, and they announced a bunch of new stuff that was coming out in 2026 because that will be the 60th anniversary. So they're going to do as much Star Trek stuff as they can. Most of it, well, here's what I'll say. The stuff that's most related to this channel is the fact that they announced a partnership with WEBTOON to create original Star Trek comics. So, not just adapting, say, IDW comics or anything. They're going to make some new ones. As long as I'm talking about Star Trek, I just thought I'd mention IDW is about to launch The Last Starship on September 24th. I read the first issue. I liked it a lot. I don't think you have to be a deep Star Trek nerd to understand it at all. Because it takes place way far in the future that they haven't explored a whole lot. Anyway, Star Trek Online, that's one of those MMORPGs. Their art director said that the main ship from the comic, The Last Starship, which is called the Omega, is going to be added to their game. I thought that was kind of cool. And the Omega is built on the bones of the starship, the Theseus, with other scavenged parts. See, this is set in the far future, in the 31st century, at this time when any ship across the galaxy that had warp drive, which lets you go, faster than the speed of light and actually go between planets, they all exploded at once. So interstellar travel is super rare. It's like this era where Starfleet almost stops existing. And they're going to sort of talk about what happens there. But I love that they've got a ship called the Theseus that they rebuild into something called the Omega, because hopefully you guys know the argument, the philosophical argument of the ship of Theseus. Yep, some nerds in here like me. It was called the Burn when all the warp drive ships exploded. I'm a simple guy. I like meat toppings mostly. WEBTOON is... I'm not even done with WEBTOON for this week. There's a lot. Anyway, the ship of Theseus, the philosophical argument goes, there's this really, really old ship, and as it gets older, over time, each plank of wood slowly got replaced, until one day, every single piece of the ship had been replaced by a new part. None of the original parts were there. And then all those old parts were reassembled into the Theseus. So now there's two boats, same design. Which is the real ship of Theseus? It's an interesting idea. Anyway, obviously they sort of in a way come to a conclusion by renaming it the Omega, but it's still a nice little reference to that idea, especially in a time and place where you don't have tons of, like a fleet of working starships, and you recreate something. I like that. I know. I like WEBTOON, but I don't love their current system of how you sort of can gather a few coins for free each day. It kind of makes sense if you pay for WEBTOON. If there's a bunch of series you like, you can get a good value out of it. But for free, it's tough now, because you used to be able to read a lot more. They had to find a way to monetize it. So I do get that, but yeah, it's not as easy. It's super, super, super popular. I was going to say in Korea, but honestly, across the South Pacific, really. Yeah, you're a fan of Jar Jar Binks. That's the weird thing that you are not supposed to think about with Star Trek is teleportation. Although they have like sort of addressed that in a way it is rebuilding you. It's like taking all the information of what you are and then like rebuilding that somewhere else, because they've had episodes where either people were stuck in the information buffer at like and then finally finished transporting decades later, or there was a problem and two versions of the same person like ended up getting created. So they sort of address it, that you're sort of destroying yourself and recreating yourself. And everybody in this world of Star Trek seems okay with it. All right. As long as I'm talking about WEBTOON, this broke today. Disney is massively expanding their partnership with WEBTOON. So they obviously see some real value in it. So last month, Disney announced a partnership with WEBTOON where they were going to both adapt existing comics and create new original comics for the WEBTOON platform. Well, that's expanded. Today, their joint press release explained that it is actually going to be more of an expansion of Marvel Unlimited, Marvel's current digital reading app. So they're working together to create a new platform, a new app. Disney also announced that they acquired a 2% investment stake in WEBTOON. WEBTOON is not currently profitable, but Disney's pretty conservative with how it invests its money, so they must see some real potential in this. They must. Disney Plus subscribers will get access to some digital series, and that's probably just, like a tease so that you might subscribe. But as somebody that already has Disney Plus, I'm totally okay with getting some extra comics on it. I like that. The partnership is going to both adapt existing comics and create original comics based on Marvel, based on Disney, based on Star Wars, based on 20th Century Fox. They've got a lot of properties they can adapt. Oh, wow. Thanks. James, thank you. Thank you for making me a better comic book nerd and keeping me updated on weekly happenings. I have to admit, the WEBTOON format has made me a better comics reader. I can burn through whole runs in one night. Once you're reading it, it's really easy. I do like, I like the idea of scrolling. It's a very challenging thing, I think, as an artist to adapt to that style of like figuring out just how to make all the information in a panel matter as compared to a panel within a whole page of panels. It's a different idea. It's a different idea. It is sort of going to be a new app. It's going to be sort of WEBTOONs technology with, a bunch of Marvel Unlimited capability. So yeah, big expansion, just putting it on people's radar, whether you want to check it out or not. I don't really care because I have no investment in this. Yeah, depending on how much access we get, that could be fun. If I could just basically log into whatever their digital app is with my Disney Plus account and just sort of read them on my phone during like my lunch breaks or something, I'm kind of down with that. Apparently, the Rick and Morty comics are ending. I was surprised by this. Oni announced a 6-issue Rick and Morty comic subtitled The End, starting December 3rd. And at first, that was the only announcement. And you're like, well, that's probably just, baiting us, right? They're calling it The End, but that could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But the other day, or actually, I think today, Oni issued a press release that reads, "This title is not some kind of artful metaphor, folks. After 10 years and over 100 issues, the beginning of The End starts here as acclaimed writer Daniel Kibblesmith and artistic annihilator Jarrett Williams prepare to unleash a fantastically fatal finale for Rick and Morty." Now, just to be clear, the show finished its 8th season this past summer, and it's already been renewed through the 12th season, and probably will go past that realistically. So it has potential. Like the show isn't ending, just to be clear. It's just this comic. And I guess that's everything I got about the comic. Yeah. Yeah. Because the first few years of the show, it wasn't coming out like every year. It took a while to ramp up and get those renewals and stuff like that. No. Roiland isn't involved at all. They fired him before the season 7. So, yeah, he's gone. And Dan is, working on TV stuff. So they don't really oversee that. Dick Tracy is a comic I like quite a bit. I'm reading the current version that comes through Mad Cave. I like it. And I've got a lot of, I think that there's a violent charm to the original Chester Gould comics. I made an episode about it a long time ago on comic tropes. I haven't done a lot of episodes about comic strips, but I want to. There are comic strips I want to talk about, like Calvin and Hobbes, Friday Foster, probably some superhero stuff at some point. Comic strips, I consider comics. That comic books wouldn't exist without the Sunday comics. But I really like Dick Tracy. It's way more violent than you'd think that is. It's a pretty crazy stuff. It's pretty crazy stuff. Clover Press currently has a crowdfunding campaign. So I'd missed when it launched, but it's going to go for 2 more weeks, 15 more days from today. And they're printing Chester Gould's Dick Tracy strips in softcover editions for the first time. So a little more affordable than some of the previous hardcover stuff. Each volume is organized in a kind of interesting way. It's a full year's worth of strips, and it starts January 1st and it goes through December 31st. So each volume just represents 1 full year of the comic, as compared to trying to follow like plot lines or anything. It's just like, boom, this is the year. The first volumes that they've got here on this campaign go from 1941 through 1944, 4 volumes. He was really cool, and he could draw fast, and it was... He knew how to make, you know, an iconic caricature, but like have people identifiable and profile some really creative villains. Dude, it's so much more violent than you'd think for a comic strip. So the comic started, by the way, back in October of 1931. So this isn't from the beginning. That said, you can jump into Dick Tracy pretty much anywhere, and it'll make sense. With one caveat, I forget whether it was in the 50s or the 60s, it did try to go very sci-fi at one point, with Dick Tracy's adopted son marrying an alien from space, and they would go to the moon sometimes. It was crazy. It's crazy. But mostly it's street crime. Gould did it from 31 all the way to 77. That's a long run. But I get it. Comic strips were so profitable in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Just, that was where you could make your money. Even into the 60s. That was really where you made your money. Not on a comic book. It was on a comic strip. Yup, Moon Maiden. Crazy stuff. Doesn't really seem like it fits with the rest, but it went sci-fi at a certain point. And then it backed off. The new sales... I almost got that out. The new softcovers each have a slipcase by a modern artist. We've got Jerry Ordway, Stuart Kenneth Moore, Juan Jose Rip, and John K. Snyder. Anyway, it's on backer kit. It's $110 for all 4. It's up to you whether you think that that's a good value or not, but that is 4 years of a comic strip. That's a lot. It's specifically also published letter size landscape, like 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by 11. I think it's fun. Oh my God. If I got talking about the rights to Dick Tracy, Warren Beatty got the rights in perpetuity, as long as every once in a while he makes something a little bit related to Dick Tracy. So as he gets to be an old man, he's made these bizarre short videos where he as himself will talk to him as Dick Tracy, and that just counts as, it allows him to hold on to the rights. It's a mess. Stupid. Frank Miller is engaged in a long lawsuit. It's been going on for like 4 or 5 years now. So specifically, there's a producer, or as apparently I typed it, producer. I don't have an editor. What can I say? I make mistakes. Anyway, producer Stephen LaHero, guessing at that. My kryptonite, as somebody said, is pronouncing names. Anyway, he's been engaged in a lawsuit with Frank Miller since 2020, arguing that he should have the rights to adapt Hard Boiled, which is a comic I love. This week, LA Judge Doreen Boxer ruled that LaHero can take his case to a jury. If you don't know who he is, LaHero was a producer on Sin City 2 and 300. And he argues in his legal filing that Miller granted him an indefinite right to purchase the rights to adapt Hard Boiled. And he says that he also has a separate agreement already with artist Jeff Darrow. As to exactly the truth or the facts of that, I don't know. That's just what he argues in his lawsuit. But obviously, Frank Miller doesn't really want to move forward with this guy, so I'm not really on his side. Oh yeah, Ronin's definitely worth a read. It's a really cool concept, and it's Frank's art at a really good point in his career. It's not my favorite of his stories, but it's really cool. Yeah. Anything that he did in the 80s is definitely worth a read. I'll just say that. Anything he did in the 80s. I've never heard that before, no. That David Fincher wanted to do it with Nicolas Cage. If that could have happened, that would have been awesome. Yeah, sometimes I wonder about that too. Martha Washington is another fantastic Frank Miller story that he did with Dave Gibbons, Watchmen's Dave Gibbons. Great artwork. Great artwork. Anyway. The anime. Oh, yeah, for Big Guy and Rusty, the boy robot. Yeah, that was good. That was well done. Mike Mignola adds a Western to the Hellboy universe. So he's teaming up with writer-artist Ray Allen to make a new paranormal Western. It's called Carmen Redclaw, Belly of the Beast. And it's sort of connected to Lobster Johnson, part of the greater Hellboy universe, but it's going to be its own little corner that hasn't been addressed much. Dark Horse, I almost said Dark Claw. I don't think that... Oh, Dark Claw was the amalgam version of Wolverine and Batman, right? Yeah, I was like, why did I almost say Dark Claw? Dark Horse describes the 4-issue miniseries. Carmen Redclaw is a descendant of the notorious El Bogavante, the fearsome privateer who first appeared in Mike Mignola, John Arcudi, and Tonki Zoniek's 2014 Lobster Johnson Get the Lobster, featuring iconic 1930s crime fighter, The Lobster. Working as a shape-shifting supernatural gun for hire, Carmen investigates a supposedly cursed ranch in 1870s New Mexico territory. Something is killing the cattle in the area, and it's up to Carmen to find out whether there's a beast to blame or if humans are the real monsters. I love the Hellboy universe, so sounds cool to me. Sounds cool to me. Let's see. The new Lobster Johnson figure boss fight studio announced looks amazing. I haven't seen them yet. That's cool. Lobster Johnson's a great design. Great design. Love it when Mike Mignola has drawn Lobster. Love it when I think I've seen Dave Johnson do some really good ones. Very cool. Oh yeah, this comes out January 7th. Invincible's getting a new omnibus. There's something new to it. Skybound announced this today. There's going to be a new version of the omnibus. It's going to be available in April, and it's going to include some previously unreprinted stuff. So the omnibus will have, first of all, this new cover by Ryan Ottley. It's going to include issues 0 through 47 of Invincible, plus the team up with Spider-Man that Marvel published in Marvel Team Up number 14, written by Robert, drawn by Invincible co-creator Corey Walker. So that has never been in the omnibus before. That's pretty cool. It's going to be a hardcover, $125, but obviously that is 49 issues. So pretty cool. 1 second. Ronan. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you checked it out. Nice. You've never heard of Invincible? I think somebody's trolling. If you don't have one already, I guess this would be the one to get, because it weaves in that Spider-Man team up was part of the Angstrom-Levy storyline. So it's nice to have it. Well, that one's out of print. So, yeah, now they've got this one. Marvel has warned people not to open their blind bags early. They specifically emailed a warning to stores not to sell Ultimate Endgame #1 blind bags before the street date because, of course, just last week, DC had problems with retailers and whatnot, the people doing it with Batman #1. None. I don't like Lobster. My father is very frustrated when he's willing to buy and cook expensive lobster and that I don't want one, but I don't like it. Sorry. Here's what Marvel wrote. Important. True believers blind bags have a firm, look at how that's capitalized. They mean business. Firm street date of 12/31/25 to ensure a fair and consistent experience across the industry. Retailers are strictly prohibited from shipping the contents of Ultimate Endgame #1 True Believers blind bags so that they are in consumers' possession before the on-sale date of 12/31/2025. Retailers who violate this may be restricted from participating in future True Believers blind bag programs. That implies that they're going to keep doing them, or receiving Marvel shipments prior to street date. Marvel appreciates your cooperation in maintaining the integrity and success of this release. Hey, I think that's only fair. It's too bad that they have to tell stores to do that, to play fair. Let's see. Oh, a bunch of you guys love seafood. That's what you want to talk about. Last piece of news. And then for anybody that's got some money, I'm going to share something that I have for sale that you can't quite see, but it's back here. Might not sell, but it might if you like it. We'll see. So, last piece of news. Game info leak for Wolverine and Venom. According to a report by the website MP First, the Wolverine game by Insomniac Games is expected to arrive in 2026. Which was previously shared in a data leak from Insomniac, but that was a few years ago. MP First says that it's been confirmed to them by an insider. They also report that the Venom game will have an Eddie Brock that's closer to the comic book version than, say, the recent movies, or even the previous games, I guess. And he's going to be facing off against Carnage. Finally, they report a rumor that Insomniac wants to include Spider-Man 2099. Yeah, 2099. Miguel O'Hara. I'll just say that. Miguel O'Hara. Because apparently I can't say 2099. Probably they'd include that in Spider-Man 3. I love those Spider-Man games. Insomniac makes great games. So I'm pretty excited for Wolverine. Honestly, there was a really good Wolverine game that came out around the time of, I want to say, his first solo movie. It played really well. I don't remember if it was called anything other than just Wolverine, but I remember it being pretty darn good. I thought it was underrated. Dude, that was awesome in the comics and stuff like that. That like Eddie Brock hated Peter Parker so much, he begged God himself to kill someone. Oof. Ugh. Ew. It was called X-Men Origins Wolverine. I feel like that was a really fun game. Yeah, Venom was, but what I'm trying to remember, was Eddie Brock much of a part of that? I don't know. I don't remember. So I like to talk about indie stuff I'm excited about. First thing I'll mention is this. The Comic Shop. It's a web sitcom I supported on Kickstarter. New episode every Friday. They've released 3 of, I think they're going to do 6. I think it's a pretty funny show. It's basically like documentary style done in a new comic shop. It's cute. It's better than cute. That underplays it. I like it. Anyway, they're going to do a comic by the actors, and it's somehow tied into the show. And my wife has 2 pieces of art that she was willing to offer up because I recently posted some of her art to Instagram, and it went over very well. It's not cheap, but I'll just share with you and see if you guys are interested in anything. If you are, you can basically super chat me that price right now. And if it's domestic, like that includes shipping. So this is Josephine. That is oil paint on holographic paper, which means it like does all sorts of cool reflective stuff on the backgrounds and the eyes. That one is $230. Also, she has this one. That's Jamie. And this is $330. So not cheap, but just in case anybody wealthy was out there, we're about to take a trip to New York for like a friend's wedding and then stay for New York Comic-Con. But you know, we're having a tough time. Chrissy got laid off because her business that she worked for like almost 20 years, like having some tough financial times. So thought I'd share some of it. Oh, yes, thank you, Jeannie. She said change the layout so you can see better. Excuse me. So Chrissy painted this in oil on holographic paper. It creates a really cool effect, in my opinion. I think it's really nice. So that one's Jamie. That's $330 if you wanted it. And then at some point we'll probably get some prints of things in the future. And this one is called Josephine. Chrissy's a great painter. She's done all sorts of cool stuff she's had shows in Hong Kong and DC, and she's got a gallery she shares with some friends here in Seattle. And the eyes, it's harder to see on camera, but in person they like reflect in a really cool way. No, Chrissy is self-taught. But she's a great painter, and I just thought I'd put it up just in case. Anyway, reach out if you're ever interested in one of my wife's paintings. I thought I'd put them up, but she's really, really talented, in my opinion. I think she's a far better artist than me. It's very kind of you to say such nice things. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, this is my show, not Chrissy's, but Chrissy has always been a great artist. I met her when she was in a band because she plays electric violin. She plays a lot of instruments, to be honest, but she also paints a lot. We've done things like 24-hour comic book day together. And yeah. Oh, I mean, it's part of what makes us a good fit. Sometimes, we'll take a sketchbook to the park or the zoo or something like that, and just sort of draw together. It's nice when you can just sort of be quiet and make art together and then just show each other what you came up with. It's really fun. But anyway, so we just had those two pieces, and we were seeing if there was some wealthy investor that was interested in one. But anyway, tell you what, let me get into setting up for doing some comic book reviews, because there was some incredible comics that came out this week. Oh my God, do I have stuff to say? So yeah, we'll do that next. We'll talk about comics that came out this week. We'll do some reviews.
Let's review.
Review it.
The review.
The reviews are in. I repeat, the reviews are in.
Go to your reviews.
What? Speaking of bad reviews.
Don't worry about that review.
Let's review all the facts.
All right, gentlemen, let's review.
Before we do, let's review.
Those reviews really came out fast.
Maybe we can review some right now?
I'm not going to review all that again.
Now let's review.
Not my worst review.
Let's review, shall we? To review.
I think I've reviewed about as much as I can.
All right, there we go. Let me share an extra camera, which I've got all set up. Do it like this. All right. I'm going to place this here for a minute because it's just so big. And I think what I'd love to talk about first this week is issue 24 of Transformers. I was about to sort of call it a finale. It's the end of Daniel Warren Johnson's run, but I'm not going to spoil anything, folks, but for my interview with Robert, I did get to see issue 25, and I'll just let you know, the story does keep going. But I think that there is a certain amount of closure and some pretty fantastic action and emotional stakes to all of this. And I want to shout out the whole team, Mike Spicer on colors throughout the whole run, Jorge Corona as the main artist. We're basically at the point where, look, it's Autobots versus Decepticons, right? It's the big final match. They're transforming and banging each other up, and they're battling across Chicago. In fact, Optimus Prime is very specifically just trying to keep as many humans alive as possible, because Megatron does kill some bystanders. It's crazy in that regard. Great action. Okay, look. Optimus doing like almost a top rope, what would you call it? Like frog splash onto Megatron at one point. I like this where they're just punching each other back and forth, and then Optimus transforms into a truck just to like almost spear Megatron through the chest. It's great. And Megatron is just so detestable in this. He is just terrible. Do some of the characters die? I don't want to spoil that. Let's just say that there are some big twists to things. There's a lot of like closure in the regard to this is a battle where one side wins. Okay. Do some of the characters get taken out? It seems like it, but they're also robots. So I feel like there's always the potential to find a story way, a sci-fi way to potentially bring certain characters back. Maybe not. You know, Bumblebee was killed in issue 1 and never came back. So I don't know. Will Kirkman find a way to potentially revive him? I think story-wise within Transformers, you can do that, and it's not totally cheating, but not yet. I liked it. I would say in some ways, I think that I was building this up to myself, thinking that this was going to be like a definitive end to a 2-year run, right? I mean, I'm used to Daniel Warren Johnson telling his own stories and getting to do that. Even when he's playing in somebody else's playground, Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, Beta Ray Bill. It's like a miniseries that has a definitive end. And I would say this has closure on some level, because it like sort of ends this big battle that's been like brewing between Optimus and Megatron and sort of protecting certain people. But it also leaves things open enough that this story can continue. And I probably should have anticipated a little bit of that. You know what I mean? I think if you go in like really understanding that it's the end of a chapter, not the end of a story, that you might find it more satisfying. Okay? But there's some great little references to past stuff in Transformers. I'm trying to think of like some of the dialogue is definitely from the animated movie in '86. I'm trying to see if I can find a good example of that. I like though that Optimus Prime is. He's done so well character-wise in this, folks. He's not quite a pacifist, but he's definitely looking for peaceful solutions. But if he can't argue, you know, or talk his way through it, he's an incredible warrior that can absolutely take on the toughest Decepticons. No problem. Does he? I thought it was like, I was just trying to see where he said, like, Megatron, I thought you were made of sterner stuff. I don't know. I hope that Robert can continue that that characterization. It's not an easy line to walk to get Optimus Prime right, in my opinion. Even though the 1980s cartoon was kind of goofy and would basically reset with every episode, you know, like there was not much that like carried over episode to episode. The one thing they did really well was the consistent characterization of Optimus Prime as a father figure. You know, he really looked out for his Autobots. He had genuine affection for other species, you know, the humans of Earth. And he does in this too. Optimus Prime has genuine like love in his heart for other people that are smaller and potentially weaker. And he's going to take a beating and just keep going to protect other people. I like that. You could very easily go 2 ways with Optimus Prime that would not work. And I think we know that they don't work. because of previous versions of Transformers. One, you can go the route that they did in season 3 with the new leader of the Autobots, Rodimus Prime. Rodimus Prime was always doubting whether he was going to be a good enough leader. Too much self-doubt. A little bit, good characterization. Too much, annoying. You have to be more confident to be somebody likable, okay? Rodimus Prime got on my nerves. Hot Rod was awesome. Rodimus Prime, annoying. Didn't like him as much as Optimus. Too much self-doubt for Optimus would tank him. Here's the other way you could go too far. Make him too tough. The live-action movies, yeah, we've got the voice. We've got Peter Cullen doing the right voice, but that was a bloodthirsty, kill-crazy version of Optimus Prime, right? It was crazy how there were lines like Optimus Prime just like, ripping Megatron's head in half or ripping the spine out of certain Decepticons. He shot Kelsey Grammer's human politician while shouting, "Die." It's just so violent. And I was like, that's not Optimus Prime. He's a great warrior, but he's not a bloodthirsty maniac. So I think you got to watch it. By the way, I was talking about this with, what is he? One of his lines is like, "Give me your face." The Michael Bay version of Optimus Prime is crazy, folks. I was talking to a friend of mine, telling him that I really like this comic. And he's a lot younger than me. And he was going, I grew up with those live action movies, so I actually really like those. I go, I get it. I kind of like the first one, didn't like them after that. And then it reminded me of one of the lines in the first movie that really cracked me up. Towards the end of the movie, I think a bunch of you probably saw it, but if you didn't, there's this huge device called the Cube, okay? And it can create life within machines. That's how the Transformers are created. And they can't let the Decepticons get that. They can't let the bad guys get that. So Optimus Prime tells Shia LaBeouf's character, he goes, "Sam, if I should fall in battle, I want you to take the cube and shove it into my chest." I always got a kick out of how weird that line is. I think it was like, I think the idea was it would destroy the cube. So better to like destroy it than to let it fall into the hands of Megatron. But I always liked the idea that like, what if it had nothing to do with what they're talking about? And that was just some fetish on Optimus Prime's part. He's like, "Sam, the only way to defeat the Decepticons is for you to get in that Volkswagen Jetta over there and drive it into my chest." Yes, in the first movie, you can look it up. He just goes like, "Sam, I want you to take that cube and shove it into my chest. Sam, if I should fall, don't let the Decepticons win. I'll need you to get in and out of my chest very quickly. Sam, I need you to shift my gears back and forth out of first gear into reverse. It's the only way to defeat the Decepticons, Sam. It's the only way. You've got to shove some stuff into my chest." Okay, Optimus. And then you're like, instead of Optimus dying, you just hear him going like, "Oh." You're like, wait, what? What? Optimus? "Sam, I need you to take Megatron's gun form and shove it into me. It's what I need. Stuff my cavity. It's the only way to defeat these evil Decepticons." I don't know. Because I'm riffing on the spot. That's a terrible impression. I agree. So, but this is a great issue. I'm so glad we got a 2-year run of Transformers by Daniel Warren Johnson, because I had sort of stopped being into Transformers since I was a kid, and this really reignited my love for the ideas behind it. I just thought it was a blast that it had this consistent blend of action and emotion, like that the characters cared for each other. The stuff between Optimus Prime and Spike Witwicky and his father. It's just fantastic. I would say that like I wish there was a little bit more in this with Carly and her van that was turned into a transformer, Shredhead, but we might get that in the future. Don't stop shoving it, Sam. I'm not done transforming. That's it. Anyway, it's really good though, folks. I do recommend it strongly. I do. Absolute Batman I'll talk about next. And this is just an insane version of Bane that has, instead of wrecking Bruce Wayne by breaking his back, I think I made this reference in a previous episode. He's breaking the people that have Bruce Wayne's back, his friends. I think in some ways this is a little rushed. We already saw that somehow the people Bane worked with have transformed his friend Waylon into Killer Croc, right? But it goes beyond that. He messes up 3 more of his friends all at once. He just breaks every single bone in Oswald Cobblepot's body, leaving him just this weird blob, which I guess will turn into Penguin. He doesn't just burn half of Harvey Dent's face. He burns half of his body and literally takes his skull and cracks it in half. And he rips apart Riddler and has made Edward Nygma, and makes Edward watch his other friends as they were tortured, which breaks him psychologically. So he basically, within one issue, Bane created 4 of Batman's iconic villains, which is kind of fast to like do all of that all at once. I wonder if it might have been better to spread some of that out, but maybe it wouldn't have had the same impact. It's hard to know until we're a little further past this and we see where those characters end up. It's hard to know. Yeah, I can understand being of two minds of this. I loved last issue where Bruce Wayne was getting, sort of experimented on by these people that work with Bane. And we sort of get a hint at the Joker of the Absolute Universe, who's really terrifying. And I do like what they've done here, but it's over the top. It's over the top. Yeah. So that's interesting. I don't mind it being over the top. I really don't. You're saying it's so over the top it's hard for you to take seriously? I can understand that. I really can. I like it. I just wish it wasn't necessarily going so fast that all 3, well, technically 4, it's just that Waylon sort of was done in the previous issue, all 3 all at once. But to take away sort of all of Bruce's friend network at once is a pretty big move. I also like this aspect, which not everybody will like. Absolute Batman legit consistently features some body horror with what it does to the human body. With what I just described, like the Penguin having every single bone broken, with Harvey Dent being ripped kind of in half and burned, like half of his whole body burned. These are horrific things to happen to a body, but also things have happened to Bruce's body. Or the issue where Bruce had been held in like a jail to try to break his will, and he would he'd had everything stripped from him, and he like broke out some of his teeth and turned them into knuckles, and he he stopped eating, so they put a food tube in him, and he found a way to turn that into a way to squirt his stomach acid at his jailers. That's horrific stuff, but I kind of dig it. I kind of dig the body horror a lot. So if you're not into that specific type of horror, Absolute Batman probably isn't for you, because it isn't just superhero action. It really is playing into some horror stuff. I think Scott Snyder does that well. Yeah, this is a darker universe. Absolutely it is. He's a weird underdog. Oh, somebody actually did that? I didn't know that. I could see a little of the Riccio thing. Yeah, I can see that. It's not going to be for everybody, is my point. I liked last issue a lot more. Issue 11 was pretty incredible, was definitely a highlight. This one was pretty extreme, but it also sort of tested me to the point where I go like, is this book for me or not? And it is. This isn't my favorite issue, but it does still kick ass. Like, look at that. Nick Dragotta drawing Absolute Batman and Absolute Alfred Pennyworth gearing up for battle with Bane. That just looks so cool. I do like this version of Alfred, having him, more active. I like that. I picked up a really cool comic this week at Fantagraphics at an art show. Fantagraphics has an actual store in Seattle. It's really cool. And every month they have the wall have some art on it, like it's a gallery, and they just sell really cool indie comics. So this is Spiraland issues 1, and if you flip it, issue 2. And in Spiraland, all the sort of living things are sort of two things in once. And so in issue 1, we mostly focus on Spider-Bat, who's just a weird little rascally guy that's both a spider and a bat. And in issue 2, we focus on Cattercat, who's like a cat and a caterpillar. This is funny. It's sort of for kids, but it's also pretty funny. Spider-Bat flies around and bumps into like the tree people, and they call him a monkey, and he gets really offended. So they just spend like the whole issue arguing back and forth. But there's also weird stuff in this, like sorry, I'm getting all excited and I'm stuttering. Spider-Bat sees that he's got a tail. They're calling him a monkey, and he's like, "What? I've got a tail." He doesn't want it, so he has his friend Beetlebun clip it off, and he's happy about it. He's like, "Phew! Now I don't have a tail." In issue 2, Cattercat ends up inhaling a bunch of mushroom dust and sneezing, which makes him spit out these fur balls that all like run around like little babies. Let's just say they could be real, or he could be hallucinating from mushrooms. It's super cute. It's by a guy named Adam Ivan. That's like his pen name. I've seen this guy at different Seattle art shows here. Let me pull something up real fast. I'm just going to pull up a web page in case you guys like this, because this isn't in your average store. But if you go to spiraland1l.bigcartel.com, you can get this comic or stickers and stuff. And at some point, maybe some other comics. He does a lot of paintings and stuff in the area. If you are in the Seattle area, I definitely recommend swinging by Fantagraphics this month. It legit made me laugh. I thought it was fun and funny. So it gets my recommendation. Just an indie book that I happened to pick up that I wanted to pass on. What else is worth talking about this week? I didn't think I would talk about Redcoat, but I love Redcoat. Big fan of Brian Hitch, so I like realistic art. This talks about a specific thing that happened during the War of 1812, which lasted more than just 1812. Specifically, we get to 1814, and the British burned down the White House, right? Well, in this one, the main character, Simon Pure, happened to be getting like lunch with some cooks that work there and gambling while it burned down. And he bumps into a lady who's trying to save something from the burning fire. Who's the lady? Let me get to a good issue. Well, this is the lady. It's Dolley Madison, the wife of James Madison, 4th president of the United States, I think. Washington, Jefferson. Wait, Washington. Oh, yeah. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison. Or Jefferson, Adams. I think she. I'm pretty sure he was the 4th president anyway. Dolley Madison is a really interesting historical figure. I know. Okay, so yes, folks, sorry. I know that it was the Canadians. However, they were supported by the British. Okay? They were. So, yeah. But yes, the Canadians were fighting us for the War of 1812. I do know that. I'm sorry if I didn't go into detail on the battle. Anyway, it involves Dolley Madison rescuing this painting of George Washington from the fire, which she did. She did in real life. This just adds him battling these people. Admiral Cockburn. And it just took me down an interesting path where I was like, oh yeah, Dolley Madison. I hadn't thought about her since like school when you learn about this history. But Dolley Madison is a kind of fascinating historical figure. Not like there's as much history as a lot of other people back then, but she's consistently ranked as one of the most respected first ladies in our country. She's usually like top 5, 6, that kind of a thing. She did a lot for the country. Jefferson, for instance, had been a widower. So Dolley Madison planned a lot of the social events when he was president. And then when her husband became the president, Dolley Madison very specifically invited people from both parties to social events at the White House regularly. And that might sound like something small. That was not small. The previous presidents pretty much only invited members of their own party to the White House for social events. Dolley Madison was very much about reaching across the aisle and finding the commonality, finding the things that we could do together, and trying to make sure that we could treat each other well, even if we had different ideas on how to run the country. Think of how huge that is. But like, Dolley was basically the first person to really emphasize that in the White House. And I just think that's pretty cool. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to like make any of these people that were like, you know, in the founding fathers area sound perfect. They all had slaves. In real life, did Dolley save this painting of George Washington? Yeah, by basically ordering her personal slave to help her get it out of the fire. Okay. Not as noble as in this when she teams up with this hero. But she did do a lot of good for our country in that regard, you know, in terms of finding ways that we could work together. And it's a nice thing to remember every once in a while. And I think it's a really cool aspect of Redcoat that it weaves in real life history and makes it interesting. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Adams. Yeah. John Quincy Adams. That's sort of what I'm saying. Yeah. Dolley Madison would be somebody that we could like really shout out. And she wanted to save that painting of George Washington because she really respected not just how Washington was a great general or a great leader, but that he stepped down. Keep in mind, that was new too. We had kings up till that point. This was a leader who was elected, fulfilled a term, and then voluntarily stepped down. That's an important precedent for our country that we'll see, you know, if it lasts forever or not. But I think it's I get why she admired that and why she thought that was important to remember. There were a few things that survived the burning of the White House, but not a lot. Anyway, it just sort of shows how not just comics, but really any fictional medium can make history relevant again. And it just inspired me to read up on her this week. And I liked that. I liked reread because I just had a little additional context. Powers is back for its 25th anniversary. Brian Michael Bendis, Michael Avon Oeming, both guys had done stuff before, but I think Powers was definitely the thing that like launched both of their careers in a much, much bigger way. So it is interesting to come back to it after so many years gone. And if you haven't read it, like they sort of recap the premise here, and this is an introduction because it's been gone for a while. Powers simply follows police detectives in a world where there are super-powered heroes and villains. Therefore, there's a Powers division that investigates murders that involve superpowers, because it gets weird, right? There's all sorts of sci-fi or alien or magical stuff that can happen. And in this, the big thing that happens is we're introduced to some new detectives and new police chiefs since last time, so you don't really need to remember what happened before. But a politician institutes a new act where they sort of loosen all the rules on what govern people with superpowers, which is just going to create a huge mess for the police. It's really interesting. The premise in the world is the most interesting part, usually the world building, and sometimes the specific mysteries of what goes on, as compared to maybe there's some good characters in it, but it's usually more about, in my opinion, the story than the character. That said, Bendis really leans into his dialogue here. He's got a way of writing dialogue where people talk over each other or stutter or stumble, like certain filmmakers innovated and created, like, overlapping dialogue, or people that like talk more naturally by stumbling for a word or something, interrupting each other. So there is a lot of that, and your mileage will vary on how well you can read that and interpret that. I like it. I could get burned out on it if I read too much of it at once, but I do like it. I read this issue of Powers, and it felt very natural, the dialogue, even though we're in a very heightened world. So I like it. Everybody's still talking about the Washington portrait. Yeah. Boy, I don't think I ever quite finished the very last volume or two of Powers in retrospect. But I did like this quite a bit. It was cool to see Powers again. I think it really, really benefited from having a big break. Because it's like it refreshed its batteries, it didn't get too cliche by repeating the same story beats or anything. There's new ideas that you can do in this world, and new characters that fit in, and new uses for old characters. Dina Pilgrim is in this. She was one of the original police detectives. Now she's like the captain of the police, and it's an interesting position to see her in. It's good. Dude, Redcoat's really cool, and I'm not always a humongous fan of what Jeff Johns does, but I find Redcoat pretty awesome. They weave in historical figures in pretty natural ways. I think the dialogue is frequently really funny, and the character of Simon Pure is a little bit of a bumbling dum-dum, so he gets himself into crazy situations. Yeah, Brian Michael Bendis has definitely been busy. In fact, just to be clear, this year he released a book that I think is going to make my top 10 list for the year. He released a book about being hired to write a version of the Spider-Man musical and all the drama that went on behind the scenes in the early days of trying to get the Spider-Man Broadway musical up and running, and it is really interesting. It also talks about his earliest years in comics in general, so I loved it. I thought it was one of the best books this year. Before I continue with some more Marvel DC type stuff, let me bring out this. So, Young Magazine. Young Magazine has been around for 45 years. This is a Japanese magazine, manga magazine, specifically aimed at young adults, which means quite a few things. But this is a humongous volume. let me see how many pages. Over 1,000. We've got 1,040 pages. And guess what? You can get it for free. Where? The place I got it, I don't know if it's at other places, but I got it at Kinokuniya, which is a chain of Japanese bookstores. It imports stuff from Japan and is a chain across Japan as well. For free, I'll pick it up. Kodansha publishes this. Kodansha has published, I think that they published Akira. They published Ghost in the Shell. Bunch of stuff. So yeah, Kinokuniya is where I got it. If you've got one of those near you, it is a chain in a lot of major cities. But look it up if it's other places. Sometimes they call it Young Magazine USA because they're publishing it in English. And this is definitely an entry point in that, like, this is not continuing any of the stories. These are all first chapters of stories. Some of them I was into more than others. But the cool thing about a seinen manga is they cover a lot more genres than just sort of battle manga, which Shonen Jump has. You know, first of all, here's a Shonen Jump for comparison. And it's a very thick guy, okay? It's about half the size of maybe like that. It's about half the size, a typical Shonen Jump. But if you flip through Shonen Jump, you know, some of it's going to be sports, some of it's going to be samurai, some of it's going to be sci-fi, but it's all going to sort of be about battling and, like, you know, either an older teenager or a very young man, just getting more and more powerful and skilled with a little bit of romance stuff mixed in. And that's okay. Some of it's great. This, you're not going to like every story necessarily, but the first one is sci-fi, set in the far future in space with giant robots. Next, this was one of my favorite. I'd never heard of this before, but Keito Gaku did a book called Boys Run the Riot. And this one is the sequel to Boys Run the Riot. It is about a female-to-male trans teenager who wants to become a fashion designer. And Keito Gaku, to be clear, is also trans. So it comes from a very real point of view, but it isn't lecturing you or anything. That's just the background on the characters and the world. It's just, this is just a story of, like, a young adult trying to find his place in the world, trying to become a professional in his chosen career. And I found the dialogue and relationships really charming. Like this moment where the university professor is calling out students' names, and the main character is Watari, and she goes, "Watari-san," and Watari's best friend is like, "Sensei, it's Watari-kun." Kun. If you don't know, san is basically an honorific you could more or less give to anybody if you didn't know what else to do, and it applies to a lot of people. But if you're going to talk about a young man specifically, you would call them kun, their name Kun. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's kind of funny. It's charming. I did not think in general Japan was progressive enough to make this stuff, but I don't know. I feel like they've got a weird relationship with sexuality in Japan, to be honest. They don't always talk about it all in public, and they censor their porn in strange ways. So I just don't know. Anyway, most of these stories are up to as many as 50 pages, to be clear. Beyond that, we've got stories of, like, like a romance with a vampire girl. For genres, I'll skip ahead. This one was cool. This one was like a sort of like samurai warriors, but in a supernatural world, and like the art is super realistic. Like, look at, like, this person has to be drawing digitally, I assume. I don't know that, but I assume, because the amount of fine detail, I just don't think you could easily achieve with a pen unless you were drawing on a really big scale and shrinking it down a lot. Visually, it reminds me a little bit of Berserk, visually. But story-wise, not quite as much. A little more realistic than that. But anyway, these are the kind of crazy things you get. Like, look at that. That's a really cool double-page spread of some sort of a demon with hands, kind of like Shigaraki in a what do you call it? My Hero Academia, but a lot scarier. You get all sorts of different genres. Some of it is like slice of life, real life stuff. This one is about a guy and his relationship with his dad, specifically how they connected on listening to the music of Bob Dylan. Okay. What else? I'll skip ahead. This one was like a supernatural battle fight thing that I don't quite remember. I didn't love all of them equally. This is like a gay romance story that was fine. This one's horror. There's plenty of horror stuff in this. Body horror. This one was a different type of supernatural horror, more with like ghosts and investigating ghosts and stuff like that. I like that one. I like the art in it. It's also a little funny. My favorite, this stuff's creepy. It's beyond what I can easily explain. Some really great different types of art within this. But I think my favorite story was this. It's the new series by Shuichi Shigeno, who did first a long run on a cool manga called Initial D. It's a race car manga. Not race car, like a street racing type thing. And then he followed that up with MF Ghost, set in the same continuity. This is called Subaru and Subaru because that's an actual name as well as a car. And it's also about street racing, and it even has some of the same characters. All I can say is this makes talking about modded cars really interesting. Really, really interesting. Tofu Delivery. The dad from the original manga is in this. Just another fan who wants to help. I wish you and your wife good health and prosperity in all things. I'm a bit lapsed. I don't even have a copy of Batman #1, and it's my man Jimenez. It's good art. I talked about it last week. Cheers to you and Tropes Nation. Be well. John, thank you so much. That's really, really incredible. Thank you so much. Big B, always nice to see you. By the way, Big B streams a weekly news or comic book topic show on Monday nights starting at 8 p.m. Pacific. So if you want more, you might like checking his show out. Yeah, Bunta is in this. I'm glad. If you loved Initial D, you'll like this too. One of the differences is there's two main characters, and one of them is a young lady that loves Subarus, and she is a Subaru driver. They talk about how this is unique because, if you want to drive in the snow, Subaru is a great car because it's almost always all-wheel drive, right? That's what Subaru is known for, if you're not a car person, is that Subaru basically makes all their cars all-wheel drive. But not always, not always. Specifically, Bunta notes that this girl, Subaru, is piloting a rear-wheel drive. And she talks about how it just helps her control the car better. And I like that. So I feel like I haven't seen that before in these series, like just a female driver on that level. The art style may not always appeal to you because, it is kind of cartoony for the people, but the vehicles are super realistic as well as the backgrounds. And Shigeno just draws the most fast-paced, exciting car racing stuff. Like it's easy to follow and it looks incredible. So I will say that I do recommend, first of all, it's free. So, you can't beat that. But if you can get a copy, get Young Magazine. I think Subaru and Subaru will be a great series. But I also liked being introduced to Boys Run Riot, I think it was called. Boys Run the Riot. I like that. My brother loves his Subarus for that all-wheel drive. Super popular here in the Pacific Northwest, I'll say. But if you wanted to potentially drift, you can't do that with an all-wheel drive vehicle. So I assume that they will be doing a little more drifting. I mean, Initial D really popularized or shared with the mainstream public the concept of drifting down mountains and with switchbacks and stuff like that. Really, like, you do not have to be a car person to get into the excitement of Initial D. It explains everything you need to know in a really easy to understand way, and it makes it cool and fun. So this, I mean, over 1,000 pages. I haven't read all of it in detail. I'll come back to it. A lot of different art styles. So that's just fun to explore too. To just go like, I recognize it all as manga with certain things, but like, look at how different some of this can be. So different. I don't know. Speaking of somebody that draws with a little bit of a manga style, I love the work of Belen Ortega. She's incredible. And this miniseries, Trinity, Daughter of Wonder Woman, no exception. It comes up with a time travel premise, but more just to create fun stuff. This has a super young version of Wonder Woman's daughter in the future. And she happens to be looking... She's looking for a dog. I'll keep it simple. She's looking for a dog. She goes back in time and ends up in Wayne Manor during the day that Batman is supposed to marry Selina Kyle. Okay? But what's great are the reactions from these characters. And it's very funny. It's very funny. I'm trying to find like one of my favorite pages of reactions from a character. Oh, in this, Selina tells Trinity about this super expensive makeup that has like actual jewels in it, and that she stole it. And at first she's like, it's stealing. You shouldn't steal. Stealing is bad. She's just so passionate about that. And then she's like, well, maybe you should try some. And she puts a little on, and like, then she just gets excited going, I'm a princess. It's adorable. There's a lot of devastation and stuff. Oh, this is good too. Where she notes that like there's a huge penny in the Batcave, and all the adults laugh when she just says, wow, that's a real big penny. Just pointing out the absurdity of the penny. And she's just like, as a little kid, kind of confused why they think that's so funny. Just adorable artwork. Really, really great expressions. Very, and I'm emphasizing the humor in it because that's the main part. But it does seem to be setting up that potentially the late Steve Trevor might have a way to come back from the dead. He's definitely dead. He's in the afterlife. But there's a subplot in this of how he might come back to life. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. And I like that I don't know. The last issue I read this week, I do still have some comments on. One World Under Doom. We're at the second to last issue. I love this. This is by Ryan North, one of the writers I've really been enjoying the last couple of years. I think his run on Fantastic Four is one of the all-time best. In this issue, the superheroes of the Marvel Universe have finally figured out that Doctor Doom is powering himself up with magical powers at the expense of a bunch of his own Latverian citizens. He's draining their energy and killing, like, even children, like, potentially. Like, he's draining them, and that's what makes him more powerful than even, like, Doctor Strange has been in the past. So now that's been broadcast to the world. People are finally like, oh, Doctor Doom's evil. They're going up against him. And what happens in this that like starts to turn the tides is that Reed Richards knows that Doctor Doom has mastered magic. He's never understood magic. He understands science. So he realized that the only way he's going to really be able to go up against Doctor Doom is if he learns magic. So he figured it out on a scientific level, how to replicate things. And he calls himself the Scientist Supreme. I'm of two minds on this. On one level, I do think it's very much in keeping with Reed Richards that when he doesn't understand something, he studies it and he kind of masters it. You know, he's mastered all sorts of scientific disciplines. But it also seems a little weird that magic, something that's so hard, like we're always told that Doctor Strange is really special because of how he's mastered magic, right? And Reed Richards has basically done this off panel over a day or two. It leads to a great battle, very original. I do think this is something Reed can do. Here's why I'm ultimately okay with it, even though I'm like, did he just master something that he shouldn't be able to master? He doesn't quite master it. Let me just say that. That's I think what like allows me to enjoy this is that Doctor Doom is still better at magic than Reed Richards, even though Reed has learned something. I think it's fair, like this far in, for Reed to start to understand magic in a certain way, but not believe in it. And I think that that's what prevents him from ever being like, you know, great at it, is he doesn't really believe in magic. He just believes that it's unexplained science. But we kind of know, if we read books like Brother Voodoo, Man-Thing, Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, that no, magic is a real thing in the Marvel universe. It just is. So it's like Reed has understood a certain aspect of it. He can understand that results are real and that you can replicate certain things, but that's not quite the same as mastering it. So I think I am okay with it ultimately, because he doesn't quite become Doctor Strange overnight. But I like that Reed has learned something new, and that like it infuriates Doctor Doom that Reed could do that. It infuriates him. So I do like that. So I guess that means at this point, I have to determine what is the book of the week that I recommend. First of all, I recommend everything I read this week. I liked all of it. If you can get this, it's free. It's fun. Indie book, spiraland.bigcartel.com. Do recommend it. But as far as what was my favorite this week, I'm going to pull out a few things. This is good, but it's also just part of a bigger story. I don't think in and of itself it warrants like book of the week. It's very good, but it's not. Powers, I enjoyed a lot, but it just doesn't hit emotionally the same way some of these others do. This one I loved that it made me look up real history, and I enjoyed, but there have been deeper issues with either history or just like growth of the main character. Like the main character, Simon, doesn't grow a whole lot in this. So I sort of get down to Trinity, Absolute Batman, and Daniel Warren Johnson's final issue. I would say all of these were things I really enjoyed. I enjoyed all of this, actually, but I'm sort of winnowing it down. Look, ultimately, this isn't the final issue of Transformers, okay? It isn't the end, but it is the end of a chapter. It's very well done, and it represents a great accomplishment. I did crease mine. I'll never get a CGC 9.8 on this. I'm okay with that. This gets my recommendation for book of the week. It's a great issue in and of itself. It's also a good cap to a really long run. And I am glad in its own way that it leaves things open to keep going. It's the end of a battle. It's the end of a chapter. There's some emotional closure. There's some surprises. It was satisfying. The more I know what to expect out of it, I think I can enjoy this even more on a reread. So I'll just sort of put that out there. Okay. I didn't pick everything up this week. I heard that the Punisher Red Band edition was pretty good from a couple people. So maybe I missed out on that. I don't know. It just didn't really cross my mind. Oh, and there were a couple issues that I would have read this week that I had to get sort of on back order from my comic shop. They didn't have enough copies, so I'm still getting the next issue of Blood and Thunder and Feral. Blood and Thunder and Feral could be things, for all I know, that are choices for Book of the Week, but I wasn't able to get them yet this week. So that's still coming for me personally. That's still something coming for me. I'm super curious about both. I guess the big book this coming week, though, will be Batman Deadpool, right? Or which one is it? It's the Marvel one first. Deadpool Batman comes out this week. Be very curious to see that, as well as the backup stories. I'm curious. I will say that I think I'm a little more excited for November's DC one with Grant Morrison and Dan Mora than I am for the Zeb Wells, Greg Capullo one. But who knows? I mean, I'm just saying that on paper, love Grant Morrison, so very curious what they do. It's kind of cool that there's a crossover with Marvel and DC again. I'm trying to think of what else is coming out this coming week that I'm not thinking of. It's not coming to me right now. Right. Worked on Klaus before. Klaus. Very good book, right? Did they do another book together too? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I do too. I like some Zeb Wells stuff quite a lot. I think anytime you do a book that's as big as Batman or Spider-Man, that's that in the public eye, you're gonna get some controversy just with your decisions on storytelling. And a lot of people did not like what he did with that character of Paul. I get it. Casey Jones, Battle Beast, good. I should check out Casey Jones. I really like that main cover by Danny Earls. I really like that. Aside from The Moon is Falling, what is Daniel Warren Johnson's next full art book? I'm pretty sure he was waiting to wrap this up so that he didn't take the thunder away from the end of this run, but I think we'll learn pretty soon. Battle Beast is this week. Is that the last one of your connecting covers, EJ? I know you did some connecting variant covers for Battle Beast, but I don't remember whether you did like 5 issues or 6 issues. It's just not coming to me before. Casey has never fought Jason now. Oh, John, here's to tacos of the week for you and the missus. One taco. Yeah, these days. How are people liking Fraction Batman? It's only been the first issue. I'll say that the thing I liked the most was how much he defined Gotham City in it and made Gotham really interesting. And it's really abetted well by that 2-page spread by Jorge Jimenez. Glorious 2-page spread of Batman gliding through the central business district. Just an incredible 2-page spread. Oh, yeah. I didn't quite have that in the news, but Skybound and Scott Dunbier's Act 4 released the art of J. Scott Campbell's Danger Girl on Kickstarter, and it's smashing records, folks. It got a lot of money. In like within a day, it had already hit 5 of its stretch goals. So it is just absolutely bonkers how well that is doing. You're doing 6 issues. Got it. Okay, 6 issues of connecting covers on Battle Beast from EJ Sue. Very cool. Very, very cool. It's not just Danger Girl, also the Wildsiders stuff. I guess I'm not enough of an expert on J. Scott Campbell to really remember the Wildsiders. I read all of his Gen 13 back in the day. I don't know if DCKO is this week. I am looking forward to trying that out. Star Wars Boba Fett, Black, White, and Blood. Could be fun. Could be fun. I don't have anything sort of prepared or in mind to draw or doodle this week, but I'll try to keep doing at the end of the news just sort of indie stuff that I'm interested in or recommend, and we'll see if we can find any of Chrissy's prints. I know that like the prices on the original paintings a little high, not necessarily everybody with that kind of money is going to be watching tonight, but if you are on if you're watching it on like the replay where thousands more people watch it, and you're interested in either of these pieces, feel free to email or message me, and I'll let you know if it's available. Hopefully not multiple people jumping on it. Cheers to the Dolley Madison Historical Society. By the way, Dolley was typically spelled EY, but I still appreciate the support. No Man's Land? What's No Man's Land? I missed whatever that is. He wrapped up The Moon is Following Us. That had a definitive end. I mean, there might be more chapters for all I know, but I don't think he's announced any formally. I wouldn't be surprised if he holds off until New York Comic Con, but we'll see, to announce what his thing is. What era do you think is Frank Miller's best era? Marvel, DC, or Dark Horse? That's a cool idea. Yeah, Daredevil, Ronin / Dark Knight Returns, Martha Washington, Hard Boiled, Sin City. Got to give it to the Dark Horse era. Dark Horse. But that doesn't mean that I don't absolutely love some of the other stuff. I love his Daredevil run. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. To be honest, like that's kind of peak to me in some ways, but he did so many good things at Dark Horse that I think like it does add up to a lot. Fun question. And I think a lot of people could easily make the argument that Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight Returns, was so influential that maybe that should count. I just really like the early 90s era Dark Horse stuff that he was pumping out. There's a very different Martha Washington. I've heard Darren Aronofsky got close to adapting a few Frank Miller things over the years. I haven't seen his new movie, what's it called? Caught Stealing, but I've heard it's good. Oh, that's true. Yeah, with Chris Claremont, the Wolverine mini. I loved that series as a kid. Loved it. God, it felt so cool. Yeah, I think that like I really like Frank Miller's artwork in the 80s on Daredevil and Wolverine. I really liked that. But I do like a lot of his writing on the early Sin City, Martha Washington, Hard Boiled. God, I love Hard Boiled. There's a bunch of movies out right now that I'd love to see, but I just don't have enough time. I did carve out late at night going to see, what do you call it? Downton Abbey. And tomorrow, my friend and I are carving out just a little window to see The Long Walk, because I really like that Stephen King book. It's surprisingly tense. Other ones I'd love to have time to see would be Caught Stealing and possibly even The Conjuring, just because a bunch of friends and coworkers have been seeing it and saying like, yeah, it's pretty good. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll see it. I've got the AMC Stubs thing, so like it doesn't really cost me anything to go see a movie. It's just the time. And I promise I'm spending all my time either at my day job or really writing and researching and getting the images for this next comic tropes. After I do this one that I'm working on, I've already told people I'm working on one about Michael Golden, who I think was a tremendously influential creator, influenced the image generation. After that, I think I'm going to do something specifically about Spider-Man in regards to his wedding back in the 80s to Mary Jane. Was that the 80s? Yeah, that was still like 89 or something, or 88. I like Paul Thomas Anderson. I like DiCaprio. So one battle after another. I'll get around to it. I hope I can see it in the theater, but I'll at least see it on streaming. Loved Weapons. Highlight of the year. Really, really good. Maybe my second favorite this year, which is saying something because I did enjoy Superman and Fantastic Four a lot, but I think I enjoyed the original movies, Sinners and Weapons, even more. But I thought we got some pretty good superhero stuff this year. Actually, I like Thunderbolts a lot too. But yeah, dude, Running Man looks like a blast. That looks funny and exciting. That'll be good. Let's see. Oh, I know what I should tell you guys. Over on Patreon, I have been doing an exclusive video for them once a month, and I let people vote on it at the $2 and above levels. $2 a month. This month, I let them vote, and it's still open for like another 4 or 5 days, I think. 4 different topics that I could potentially make an essay on. And it's all about stuff that's either in TV or movies now or about to be. I could do the Tron comic book from Slave Labor Graphics. I could do The Conjuring from DC. I think their Vertigo line, but it was through DC. I could talk about Earth X, which I'm pretty sure is what Peacemaker has been dealing with, the history of Earth X. Or what's about to come out? What was the 4th one? Because it was doing well in the votes. Let me pull it up on this. All of a sudden, I'm forgetting what I put up for my 4th option. Dumb. Fourth option is, ranking the Marvel Zombies series. People like that idea too. Personally, I think I'd like to do Earth X the most, but I'll do whatever my audience wants. So people on Patreon are voting. If you wanted to contribute $2 for the month, you'd get to vote, and you can see that. Would I ever do a Blade episode? Oh, absolutely I would. I'm trying to think. I think back in the day, I think on Patreon, I may have an audio commentary track for the first movie. I'm trying to remember. I've done 1 or 2 audio commentary tracks for movies. Earth X is the DC universe where the Nazis won World War II. They ended up using it for a lot of the quality comics characters that they bought. Aliens Earth has been fantastic. Definitely one of the best shows right now. Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it's very cool. Aronofsky's done comics. Yeah, he loves comics. He tried to do Daredevil, tried to do Batman Year One, I think it was. Maybe it was Dark Knight Returns. I think it was Batman Year One that he wanted to do. Yeah, he's done some really cool stuff, but we'll see. Let's see. I've thought about that in the past, talking about Rachel Pollack, because I like Doom Patrol. I think a lot of people have talked about Grant Morrison's run on Doom Patrol, so, you know, I don't know that there's a lot of ground that I could cover that hasn't been already discussed. It would be my opinion, so maybe. But Rachel Pollack's follow-up run was pretty darn strong and introduced some cool new stuff, set some precedents. So that's definitely a possibility. I definitely want to do an episode on Eric Larson. Some people that I really, really like, I'm like almost scared to do, and I put it off. And guys like Wally Wood or something has been an example, and Eric Larson is another. So the YouTube control bar at the bottom of the video is very different now. Like it's see-through, and the video itself is the whole square. I don't know what that means necessarily. Sorry. Don't know. Oh yeah, just to be clear, Alan Davis is another one that I really want to do a deep dive into because I love Alan Davis's art. Love Alan Davis's art. And I'm like, I get like intimidated about covering this stuff because I want to do a good job. I'm trying to think, is there anything else comic booky for like, toys or movies or TV or video games in the last week? Oh, I know one thing. Did you guys know that Peach Momoko designed a new Spider-Woman and it's being turned into a Marvel Legends toy? That's pretty cool. I'm caught up with the latest English volume of Berserk, but I haven't read any chapters that have been released after volume like 42 or anything like in Japanese. I haven't read them in Japanese or anything. I think that the reason Eric Larson probably doesn't screw up his hand is even though he does like sort of a weird grip and curl, he really draws with his whole arm. So I don't, when I look at him draw, he doesn't like jam his fingers like real tight into a fist and like risk injuring the wrist or the knuckles by like just sort of jamming it up there. So I think that like even though it looks like an odd posture, he really controls things with his whole arm in a he's very confident in that regard. I've heard that Tradmore has like an iron grip and has a unique grip, but I haven't looked it up yet. But I do want to do an episode on Tradmore just because he's a more recent-ish modern artist, and I think it would be interesting to talk about somebody that isn't exclusively, like Bronze Age or something like that, like my area of, if I have an area of expertise, it's probably closer to the Bronze Age, but I want to explore before and after that. I do, and I like looking at modern stuff, and I like a lot of Tradmore's stuff. I really liked his Silver Surfer Black quite a bit, and was the Doctor Strange subtitle like something Sunrise? Anyway. I don't play anymore, but I have in the past, and I'm sure I could figure it out pretty quickly again. If I had friends that played Magic, I would really love to get those Spider-Man cards and mess around with them, but I'm not going to get them for just me. Maybe I missed the latest issue of Radiant Black. Did a new issue come out this past week? If so, I missed it. I'll double check. I will Google that. I will Google that. But I think that's pretty much everything. It's one of the few things that I do consider myself a collector of is the G.I. Joe Classified line. So I've got absolutely all of them, with one exception. I wasn't able... I had a problem with my account when they had up the Trench Viper. So... I don't really want to pay like, double the price on eBay or something, but I really want to get the Trench Viper. Anyway. They have biscuits and gravy. I don't eat it because I'm diabetic, so I don't really eat breads and things with high carbs or sugar. So I don't, but I loved it when I was in New Orleans for college. Biscuits and gravy. There were so many great places that could do that well. And they would like put things sometimes like bacon or sausage bits in it. There's so many different ways you can doctor it up and make it special. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to get going, folks. Honestly, I'm going to get to work on the Comic Tropes episode about Michael Golden some more, and then get some dinner. Thank you very much for watching this episode. It means the world to me. I had a blast. This is something I look forward to every week, and I'm just trying to put it out so that like we can get a funnish start to the work week, and talk about the storytelling medium that we all love. But you're all great. I'm going to end it with a double salute. You've earned it. You've earned it. I've earned it. Take care. See you real soon. Watch the channel tomorrow morning for some Spider-Man goodness. Bye.